magically be here.
Okay.
Oh, we're live.
Oh. Are we live on YouTube?
I think we're live.
Looks like it.
Yeah,
Okay.
Wait.
Is someone gonna tell us?
I don't know when to begin.
Don't worry. I'm gonna check it real quick, see if people are coming in, and we can get started once we feel like there's a lot of people.
All right, you give me the go ahead.
All right, for sure.
Me too.
We're definitely on.
We are. We only have 5 people here so far.
Let me share real quick.
5-0.
Hello.
Hey.
We're gonna wait till more people get in here to get started.
Good idea.
So
All right, I got the go ahead from the higher up, so I'm just going to go ahead and start. Welcome everybody to the panel today, the discussion panel of What's on the Inside, a mental health conversation. We are so glad you're here. We are here with the boys of On the Outside and Dr. Janice Whitlock. We are so happy you guys are here. I'm Alyssa Joy, and I will be your moderator today. And I'm so excited to just introduce everybody. So most of you know On the Outside. In case you don't, we have the boys here. We're currently missing one boy. He is off site. So when he comes in, I will introduce him. We have first John Clausen. Give a wave to the camera. Hello, and I'll let you guys introduce yourself separately. And next to John, we have Samuel Jenkins. Give a wave. Hello. And then over here, we have Devin Hayes. Oh no, Devin's frozen. Oh no.
No.
Are you back?
Take it back.
No, say it ain't so.
Okay, there's Devin.
We never left.
Hello.
Hello, Devin. And then next to him, we have Dawson Huckabee. And our missing member is Andrew Bloom, and I will introduce him when he comes in. And then we are thrilled to introduce Dr. Janice Whitlock, who is joining us on behalf of the JED Foundation. And I have a really cool little bio on you, and you're an incredible woman. So I'm very excited to share this with everyone. If you don't mind me just kind of reading your accolades.
You have to. Just a little bit, please.
Just a little bit. Dr. Janice Whitlock is the Senior Director of Knowledge and Advising at the JED Foundation and has worked in the area of adolescents and young adult mental health, resilience, and well-being for over 30 years. She's founder and director of the Cornell Research Program on Self-Injury and Recovery and the co-founder of the International Society for Study of Self-Injury. She has deep expertise in areas of self-injury and mental health related challenges, including suicide, depression, and anxiety. She's earned her doctorate in developmental psychology from Cornell University, a master's in public health from UNC Chapel Hill, and a BA from the University of California at Berkeley. Oh my goodness. Thank you so much for being here with us today.
Wow. You're welcome.
Amazing. So many accomplishments. So
life
I figured, come again?
I said life has been busy. That's for sure.
Yeah.
You have definitely been busy, to say the least. But I'm going to just start off with some questions because what better way to start than questions that the guys had presented and questions that we have for you, Dr. Janice. So first off, boys, OTO, what is it like being in the spotlight on social media and having so many fans look up to you? What's that like?
Yeah, this is certainly something that especially me and John have gone through for quite some time now. How long would you say, John? About 8-9 years of doing social media and being an influencer or being somebody to, so we've been doing this a lot, and we've actually, grown up through it, being in the spotlight and having, this position of power and influence. And, we've always wanted to do nothing but express positivity and love through social media, but it does come with a lot of pressures and a lot of weight, especially when people start creating expectations of you, when they want, more content or more of you, more of your personal life. It gets tricky when it comes to that life work balance and what you do share and what you do put out and what you should keep to yourself. And it's just been a learning process through that. Now, when it comes to the band, me and John are able to express early on when we were first a band of what that boundary should be like to protect our own well-being when it comes to that, and not to get into too much trouble online, and because it's a scarier world out there, and a lot of things that you can say can get twisted and construed the wrong way. And it's a tricky world. It's a world separate than our present, our own right now. I believe social media is a whole nother universe that you should take care of, and obviously use it for the right reasons. Yeah. John, you have anything to say about that?
Yeah, I was gonna say, especially when you have a taste of fame, or social media fame, as I would call it, at a young age, it completely changes your perception of how the world works. Wow. And so, like, especially for me and Devin, I feel like we've had some bigger reality checks than just normal, like life. we have moments where, like, oh, so the world doesn't work where you just have people following you around all the time and having to worry about your own mental security in who you are and everything. It's like we especially when you're young. I know for me, I felt my security in who I was in what people thought about me. Wow. Which I didn't think I thought that, which is the issue. It's like when I was younger, I was like, yeah, I know who I am. But deep down, I was creating my worth off of what people thought of me, which is really hard not to do when your whole grown life has been created around this platform or this image of who people think you are.
Mm-hmm.
Now, as a band, we want to use that platform in the right reasons, and that's why we wanted to do this panel today. We have a lot of our own fans that reach out and ask us advice on their own anxieties and struggles, or even use of social media has been actually a big topic recently. I think people are post-COVID, when we're all on our phones and on there, the majority of the time on social media. I think we're trying to set new boundaries and figure out a better way for ourselves, because I think people are starting to realize how much it affects their emotions and anxieties and insecurities. So we thought it was very important to come on here today and do this, thanks to the Jed Foundation, and thank you, Janice, for being here. But yeah, as a band, we just want to promote a positive message and be there for our fans.
That's so good. Do you guys feel like being on social media has affected your mental health in any way? And then following up on that, Dr. Janice, we'd love to hear, once they kind of break that down, how they can tell when their mental health is being affected, and like, what does it look like to know if you have poor mental health or good mental health? So guys, if you have anything to say about social media and that.
Yeah, so it definitely affects your mental health. Like I was saying before, for me, it took me years to realize that I was even being affected by it, and that's the issue that I have the most. But I'll also say that now that I feel like I've been grounded in many other things outside of social media, it is really helpful to kind of see the whole picture of myself back then versus now, and being able to use social media as a platform to help people find that in themselves as well. Like the hardest part about mental health is figuring out what is going wrong, like where you need work, where you need to help yourself out. And that it just took really long with social media to even realize it was affecting me.
I think a good way to avoid getting yourself into that position of like just a bad mental health from your social media presence, whatever it may be, would be like I think trying your hardest to not put up like that facade, or like to live so truly to that, because you see a lot of people do that. And I feel like if you practice just being real on there, and if that works for you, that's like the most safe way to be, I feel like.
Absolutely.
It's still hard though. Like it's still.
Yeah. So to perfectly segue that into the questions we had for you, Janice, like what are some things that we could look out for, some mental triggers that would maybe help us know what we could work on with our mental health?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I just first want to offer a quick reflection. I mean, I have been alive a long time. And it's been interesting. It's interesting to have been born in the 60s and to have had, all of my young adulthood sort of pre-tech, and then to have been still young enough to be able to, and to need to work with technology and know technology and social media in order to do the work that I still do. So I have this very interesting vantage point in that way. And I'll just say, it's normal to feel awkward and weird and to not know yourself developmentally as a young person anyway. Like, you just don't know the landscape of yourself yet. You just don't. There's no way to know it except to kind of encounter the hills and valleys that you haven't been in, and it just takes time. So that's happening. To have that happen is a normal thing. To have that happen in this kind of new space we call social media is a really potentially stressful thing and different thing, because we were talking earlier before the panel started about how social media really does just amplify what humans do anyway, and that's true. But there's one thing I've thought about a lot that I think is really funky and does affect like what you guys have been talking about and what I was listening to your song speak about, and that is, like, not that many years ago, certainly even when I was a girl, it wasn't that common to see pictures of yourself. Like, I would look at the mirror in the morning before I headed out to school. I might see myself in the bathroom mirror, and there were pictures that took a while to get developed that you'd have in your your picture archives. But to see oneself every day, to like the whole idea of a selfie, the whole idea of putting yourself out all the time and to have to monitor that is totally novel. There's just never been any time in history that's been anything like this. So in a way, you guys and all your fans are in a completely new era, and then to experiment with what it feels like to be a young adult or a young person, and you're putting yourself out there, not just for a group of friends at school or people you know, but potentially for thousands of people to see, is also a very different experience than ever in history before that we know. So if it feels funky and hard and weird, then there's really good reasons for that. So I just want to validate that's that. So how do you deal with this new thing that we've created? I think it requires more self-knowledge than ever before, and you have to get it younger than ever before. Like, you just have to start to pay attention to what we think of in some of the work I'm doing, we call them red flag feelings. Like when you're scrolling and you start to feel your energy depleting, but it's subtle, right? It's subtle at first. You don't get it for a while. Yeah, it takes you like a little while to realize, oh man, I'm like an hour and a half beyond what I should have been here, and now I feel terrible. If you can back that up and start to track when you start to feel that and just get off, set it down, go away, ideally just take your device down, that is a really good thing. And if you can do it to where you can go to better content, if you can't fully get off, then that's good. That would be my advice. Yeah.
Question. Have you seen The Social Dilemma on Netflix?
I have.
Yeah. So ever since I watched that, it's funny you say that, because like now when I notice those feelings, when I feel stuck, like I'm getting into this cycle where I'm scrolling, refreshing, and I'm not even looking at anything. I'm just trying to occupy my time because I'm bored. So I need some, I need dopamine to keep going in my day, because that's so important nowadays. So I hop on TikTok and I'm scrolling, and the algorithm is perfect to me. So how it gets so hard to jump off of it. But when I feel that feeling, I literally I exit out of my phone, I stop, I get up, and I might even just look out the window for the next 10 minutes. And it feels much better than just doing that, because it feels like I'm giving my energy, like you said, and my time, which time is so precious, time is so valuable in life. And I feel like people are forgetting that. And I don't want to sell that to these companies like TikTok, Instagram, and stuff anymore. So that's a really big point that I'm passionate about, that I want most of the people here watching to realize. You should be aware of how much you are buying into these people's products.
Check your screen time, just so you know. You'd be surprised. And
can kind of compare it to what you're going through, and how much time you set aside for your real life. I truly don't believe. I mean, yes, this is physical and this isn't our real life, but I truly don't believe that 70% of the things that we watch or do on our phones on a day-to-day basis will help us in any way in our real lives, because it's just entertainment. It's just, oh, let me go see how good my best friend looks, or this person I look up to because they're perfect looking. And it's a lot of different things that may seem positive that could go, that can develop into a really negative thing for somebody's, emotions or mental health. And so, yeah, like you said, if anybody watching out there, if you feel that, if you're like, man, I've been on here for too long, just get off. It's not that hard. It's to flick away. Just get off and go try to figure out something else that you can do to make yourself feel better.
And that's a really great way of coping with how social media affects you mentally. Janice, are there any other coping mechanisms or ways to process that phone in our hands all the time that you suggest at the Jed Foundation?
I mean, there's a lot of things like, they're now, so one of the cool things that's happened in the last half decade, I guess, is there's been that there are more apps and there are more techniques there you can build in at the router level, and even at through your cell phone carrier, you can build in structure. You can say, I'm only going to allow myself to be online for X amount of time. And there's an app, usually, you can get an app that just kicks you off at a certain period of time. You can tell your router, when our kids were younger, we had a very very high functional router that would allow me to say, this device can only be on the internet from this time to this time. So, and you can do that for yourself. Like I have totally kept a lot of those things in our house just because I don't want access after 10 o'clock. I just shouldn't be on the internet after 10 o'clock. So you can structure it in, not when you're scrolling. Structure it in when you're thinking about what would be best for you. That's one way to go.
Yeah.
That's really
What are the other? I want to know what the guys have done. Like you guys have all sort of grown up to some degree with this as adolescents through young adulthood. When did you realize it was a problem, and what did you start to pay attention to, and what might people listening be able to mimic?
I think there's a lot of emotional things, but a physical thing is when you start, if you take a second to, maybe it's after this conversation you've heard, or maybe it's because we're having this conversation, but if there's a time in your life when you want to look at what you're doing and look at what is going on physically in your life, if you, it's a problem if you spend more time consuming than creating, I think. And consumption is very important because it gives us ideas for how to create, or it entertains us, or it connects us to other people. But if your productivity is below the amount that you're consuming, and this is for anything, this is for diet, this is for, your work life, or, your creation. If you're an artist life, it's like if a really amazing painter only ever looked at art, they never actually created any art, then that's a problem, because they need to create as well. But that's true for every area of your life, but especially for like social media as well. I think social media, it makes you feel like you're connecting. And you are connecting in some ways in your brain, but if you're not connecting to people around you physically, or to things around you, nature or whatever, like I think if you look out for, are you just connecting on your phone or on your device, in comparison to are you actually connecting with your parents or your siblings or your friends? Do you even have friends in your real life? Do you appreciate what you can see, hear, smell, and taste and touch, as opposed to just what's in your head?
Yeah, to piggyback off of that, you asked when I could kind of notice something growing up with it. There was a period of time where I had gotten off the X Factor and I was in a band, and we were growing very big on the internet. And I didn't think that it was affecting me at that point in time. I didn't realize it was affecting me until I was no longer a part of that band and nobody really cared about me anymore. And then I started to try and scramble to try and make people like me still. And I was now spending my time on here instead of with my friends and family, and my relationships were getting worse. Wow. Everything around me was kind of crumbling down. And it took me a second to realize that was because of my phone. It's crazy to just say that, but no, like my world was crumbling emotionally. My mental health was bad because I was putting everything I had into my phone instead of my relationships, my work life, my family. It just made a huge difference. Yeah.
Kind of similar for me. My sleep is affected even to this day. Like I don't, like you said something like no one should be on the internet after 10 p.m. I'm always on the internet after 10 p.m. And some nights I'll stay up till 2 or 3 a.m. just thinking I can't sleep. But it's really because I'm just like the not UV rays, the blue light or whatever. It's just like giving me headaches and I can't sleep. And then I find like the next day I don't wake up as early. I can't be as communicative with people around me, and it affects everything, I see Bloom's here.
Hello, Andrew.
In his camera. There he is.
Gravy.
Hi.
Hi. What's up, people?
What's up, Bloom?
Anyways.
So wait, can I just want to jump in real quickly, because you guys have both said, you've all said something that's super important, and that is that when you start to feel anxious and what you want to do is go to your device, you know you have a problem. So that's
Okay.
that's the first sign. Like anxiety means I go to my device, cut the relationship with the device, set it down. I would really recommend, if there's like, we made it a policy in our house for a while that Saturdays were just device free. We put the devices away. We don't use them at all on Saturday. We might check it midday and see if there's important text, but we don't otherwise use it. And it's hard, but it's really good exercise. And if you can't do a day, just
Really
try
good.
an hour. And then the last thing is like, don't go out to enjoy the world without your phone, and don't take pictures, or take your phone, but don't take pictures. Don't document it for the internet. Just live it. Just really live it for yourself. That would be another really good exercise for cutting the dependency.
So the question is, do you have what's a substitute? What do you do in those moments where you don't go to your phone, and what do? You just in the moment, like you said, you just stay in the moment, or what is it? What do you do?
Well, I guess it depends on how agitated you are. If your body needs to do something, then give it something to do. So in an ideal world, you go out into nature or out into the world, wherever you are, where you can feel suns, wind, senses on your body, where you can smell things, where you can keep your senses engaged. Don't stay in your room trying not to look at your phone. You really are going to have to probably separate from the phone and go out somewhere else. You can try, if you're not able to go out, or it's night or whatever, then I would connect with somebody in your house. Alternatively, and this is the really big challenge, try doing nothing for a little while. Just nothing. Just sit, lay, whatever, and see what you notice. And you don't have to be quiet. It's not like thinking nothing. It's just doing nothing. And see what you notice. You can do a body scan, so you can like, what do my feet feel like? What do my legs feel like? What am I smelling in my nose? What am I hearing in my ears? And then you can feel yourself. You'll feel things just kind of dialing down. It's a really interesting experience. It's tough to get started with, but once you get it, it's a really nice, quick and easy way to go to.
All right. Yeah, I will say that was a huge turning point in my life. What you just said is when I finally realized that my phone was a big part of the issue. I would just set it down and go outside. And at first, my issue was I always had to be doing something. I always had to be productive. I always had to be working if I wasn't on my phone. And when I finally was able to set it down and maybe just go outside and sit, or go outside and just like stand and look at things around me, just relax a second, that completely changed my mental health. And I found myself being happier with who I was, being happier with my actions. The rest of my day was just better when I could just sit and do nothing. Wow.
Yeah, because you have all these senses that are so much bigger than just even what your nose and your eyes and your ears are. You have all these senses that are not engaged usually if you're in your device. So if you allow them to kind of breathe, there's all sorts of stuff. It's kind of cool.
That's beautiful. And Andrew, thank you so much for being here. Earlier, we got to ask the guys what it's like for them to be in the spotlight on social media and having fans look up to you. And I'd love to just get your take on that and have your voice in the conversation, because that's kind of the takeoff question we went with.
Yes, thank you. Sorry, I'm a little late. But yeah, having a spotlight in the social media world and all that, I mean, to me especially is like a shock, because I'm a very introverted person. I'm not like this extrovert. I'm very shy naturally. It took me a long time to warm up, especially to like something like a camera and like talk to it like it's a person. It's very, very hard. But I feel like, if I didn't have the group of guys around me that I have now in this band, like I'd be lost. I'd be terrible at it. I'd probably be giving up on myself. Like, honestly, I mean, like, I was never really good at this. And these guys, Devin and John and everyone, Sam even, just really helping me like bring out like myself and allowing myself to get out of my head and just be myself, especially over social media. And then, having fans look up to me at that, on top of all that, having people, ask me questions, I'm just like, whoa, I'm somebody to ask now. Like, that's kind of a shock.
Pressure.
But yeah, it's it's crazy to me. But I feel like, again, just having the support system of OTO and just the family of OTO with, the team, the frequencies, everyone, it's really helped me. I don't think I could have done it on my own. Absolutely.
Wow.
That's awesome. And you bring up a great point that the people around you really do help with social media, one, and just overall mental health.
Absolutely.
And you guys, I don't know if you want to chime in at all. Do you find that true for yourselves as well? And then Janice, does that help? Does friends help? Does diet help? I mean, we know sleep helps. What helps?
Let the guys go first.
I go first.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things that you need to touch and cover on in your life. And social media can sway you away from that. Like just this morning, I'm like, I need to go to the gym. It's leg day. I need to do leg day.
Don't skip that day.
It's leg day, and I'm on my phone, right? And I can just feel my energy getting drained right when I wake up. It's the first thing I grab, just my phone, and my energy is already drained. I'm like, you know what? I can skip the gym today. I got other things that I need to do, aka 30 more minutes of whatever it is I'm doing on my phone before I actually got out of bed. So, social media can hold you back in physical health. It can also hold you back in staying in touch with your family. I'm actually, I don't know if anybody else can relate to this, but it's hard for me to pick up the phone and call my mom and dad, because when I pick up the phone, I instantly go to Instagram or I instantly go to Twitter instead, and then I forget to even call them. So there's a lot of things that you don't need to do, but that you can do in a day. And unfortunately, being glued to your phone can definitely construe that. So
yeah, I recently learned this. I'd say within the past couple of years of my life, I fully believe that we were created to be with people, to be with others. You can be the most successful, you can be the best version of yourself, but if you don't have like friends to share your life with, then it just doesn't feel fulfilling at all. I feel like we're made to be with other people, to be with friends, and social media completely takes that away sometimes. It has the great effect of being able to have friends long distance and meeting people all over the world. But if you're stuck there and you never get out of it, to see people in person, to be with your best friend, then it completely takes away from, I think, the most important aspect of life and mental health, which is just to share your life with people.
I agree.
It's just about, another thing about community is that it's actually, it takes away blind spots, because people are amazing in that they're so different. And so then people in your real life can actually catch things that you would never catch. Like these 5 guys, somehow, each of us have something that is like each of us. Like I'm like John in some ways, I'm like Bloom in some ways, I'm like Dawson and Devin in different ways. But we're also different in every other way. So, and it seems like, especially these 5 guys, they seem to hit the points. And so as a unit, as a community unit, the different people in your life are going to help catch the things that you're not going to catch, which is the way it's supposed to be. It's so that, like, someone else in your tribe can tell you, hey, don't, like, I see a lion you don't see, don't go after that deer. You know what I mean? Like that kind of thing. Like, we're wired to help each other. Yeah. And what social media does is it gives you the best parts of that. But it also is not real. It's not actually in your life. So a physical community, and it's just about having people in your life that you can actually have.
But do you guys feel like your friendships, even on social media, since this is a mental health conversation, do help with where you're at and how you're feeling and your maybe depression or anxiety? They do help you guys, your friends?
Social media is cool because it's not different than in real life in this way. People can only know about you what you show them. And on social media, for whatever reason, sometimes you can show people something you wouldn't show someone in real life. It's something like, we all know this. There's people who get on Facebook and they'll like have a crazy internet war that they would never have in real life. And because it's like a certain kind of like safety that you're not really there. And so in some ways that can be very helpful. You can tell people, random strangers, sometimes you build a relationship with someone you met on a video game or something like that, and you can show them different parts of your life you wouldn't show someone else. But the important thing is to know that you're doing that and why you're doing that. And if you should do that with someone else in your real life. But yeah, I think it can be helpful. What do you think? I mean, what do you guys think?
Beautiful answer.
100%. Yeah.
Okay, well, I'll just follow up here with the science piece of things, and
Yes,
you're going to touch
please.
on all of it, which is that humans really are born to connect. Like we know that neurologically speaking, the neurological impulse, the developmental impulse to connect happens at birth. That's like that is before anything else. So, and you guys have probably, or most of you are probably aware some of the studies we had that with children and primates and stuff that don't get enough connection, they die. Like they literally die. So we are wired to connect. And some of the longest, like there's some really cool longitudinal studies, which means they followed people all the way from their life course. They started looking at them or studying them at 15, and we now have like 70 years of data on some people, which is amazing, right? So we kind of traced people over the entirety of the arc of their life, and the things that matter and don't matter are so stunning. The thing that matters absolutely the most in somebody's longevity and quality of life, regardless of anything, where they were born, who they were born to, how much money they had, what college they went to, whether they went to college, how much money they made, what their blood pressure was when they were 50, is whether or not they felt meaningfully connected to someone. And it could just be one person, and it doesn't have to be the same person all the time. That's the other thing. But we need to be in relation to others, which brings up that second big piece that you guys so beautifully touched on, which is there's this piece around authenticity. And this is where social media gets tricky, right? Because we can be selective with what we show. We can show we can show ourselves in a way that we think we want other people to see. But on some level, if we don't know that we're fully seen by at least one person that sees us warts and all and still can be there for us and connects with us and, tell us straight up, sometimes those blind spots, I love that. That's right. They're like, dude, you're missing it. There's this big piece over here you're not seeing. Then it's not, certainly from a mental health perspective, it is not going to be as effective. So the friends that you have on social media that you're just really, that you don't really know you, that probably wouldn't have the guts to tell you truth about something if they thought it was going to lose your affection, your connection, your attention. It's probably not going to be that. It is going to give you a short-term feel-good lift, but it's not going to help with depression or anxiety or any kind of major mental health struggle you have. For that, you need authentic relationships.
Okay. Continuing the conversation on connection, when the guys have a fan who is talking to them about mental health, whether it be depression or anxiety, what are great ways that they can try to assist that person through, because it's usually through online, but even in person, like when we do eventually get to do in-person meet and greets, when someone comes up to them, what should they say? How can they actually help that person?
It's a really great question. And you guys are in a great position. I mean, first you want to validate what somebody feels. It doesn't mean you have to agree with them. You just validate that they have the feeling. And then I would ask if they have people that they really trust that they can talk to. And it doesn't have to be necessarily a therapist, but are there people in their lives that they've shared with, that they connect with, that they feel like they could share with, honestly?
Yeah.
Because that support system, like we were just talking about, is really actually pretty critical from a mental health perspective. So you can check that out. And if they, you can ask them if they're in acute distress right now, then you can certainly give them some of the hotlines, like the crisis text line is one that we recommend a lot. If someone just needs somebody to talk to, and what the crisis text line will do is do that. They're gonna try to get them connected to people who can help. And I guess you can, if you're comfortable, you can share a little bit about your story, but I would be careful about going into too much detail. I would mostly focus on what helped you, what was supportive to you, and as a potential suggestion for things that they can try. But I wouldn't go too far down that road, because you don't want to try to fix somebody. That gets into a really weird space oftentimes. What
are you doing? If you're not, so obviously that's huge. That's like a way different mission. Totally different.
Yeah.
So what are you doing? You're not fixing someone, but what are you doing?
Say that again. What are you doing?
The mission isn't like to fix someone. That's way too hard to do at the moment. What are you doing?
You mean asking somebody that? So
Well,
what are you doing in all of that? Oh, you're
in all
just,
of that,
you're,
yeah.
What should our goal
yeah,
be?
I get it. Yeah, your goal is to know, to see them, to witness them, to help them to feel seen, and then to ask them to point their attention to the spaces and places and people in their lives that help them to feel better. The things that are not a quick fix in you. You're just like, what do you have in your world that actually helps you to feel better? Where can you go talk to that person? If you've not shared this, could you go share that? You're pointing them to the things that they can access independent of that moment.
Wow.
And if they're really like, I have no idea what to do, then point them to the crisis text line, and encourage them to get help.
On the JED website by any chance, for those who are watching?
Yes. Yeah, we have a ton of resources on the JED website. I would highly recommend going there. And we're partners with a number of awesome organizations that also have wonderful resources. So all you have to do is head to our website. You'll get a lot of information, as well as tips and techniques for talking to friends and having hard conversations.
Do you want to tell us a little bit more about the JED Foundation while we're on the topic, for those who are watching?
Yeah, thanks. I'm glad you brought that up. The JED Foundation is a not-for-profit organization that's really dedicated to preparing schools, families, and communities to protect emotional health and prevent suicide for our nation's teens and young adults. And that's its core mission. So we have both a prevention mission and a health promotion mission, and we work with a lot of different kinds of systems, like schools and colleges primarily, but also communities, and through media and partnerships that we have with other organizations, we do a lot of outreach directly into the community with resources, tips and techniques, support for reducing stigma and having hard conversations. I think we're a fabulous resource for people.
It really sounds like it. That's absolutely incredible. And I would love to be able to open up to audience Q&A. Are there any other things that you would like to ask each other, OTO and Janice?
I have a question for OTO.
Yes, please.
I was listening to your song, the one that you guys just released, and I was really struck by, there was one line where you said, I wish you saw what I see, something like that, right? And as you were singing it, I was thinking, what do you see? How would you describe what you see about other people? Not you, but us, us as humans. What do we see that other people don't see about ourselves?
That's a tough question.
Yeah.
Big question.
Because perspectives are different for everybody. But when it comes to the band and why we released that song, we wanted to comfort everybody in the fact that everybody's truly beautiful in their own way. What people may think are insecurities are truly just differences, and differences are what makes you unique, and unique is beautiful. Why do I want to look exactly like him, or why does he want to look exactly like me? Everybody is different, and that's so beautiful. So wish you could see what I see. When we look at other human beings and our fans and each other, we see nothing but great human beings, beautiful human beings. And there's so much more to you than just how your hair looks, or what kind of skin you have, or what your size is, or your race, or whatever it is. I mean, a human being is a human being, and we're we want to share love, and like we were just talking about, to have somebody to talk to, or to have that connection, we are wired to do so. So like that's why we want to value that song and want to spread that love, is to start that transfer of love towards one another, and letting everybody know it doesn't matter what you look like, who you are on the inside, if you're weird, if you're shy, if all the characteristics, it doesn't matter. Whatever you are, it's beautiful because you're different. It's unique.
And I think with that, we're trying to just shift the perspective. We're trying to shift the lens of everything, because I mean, for me, this body is just a vehicle for my soul. And people get so caught up on the outside that they don't even look on the inside, which is what we want to do. We want to shift perspective. When we look at our fans, we see their souls, like they're beautiful, they're amazing people. A lot of them are reaching out to each other and trying to help each other out, and they're creating friendships across the country and meeting in person, and it's the most beautiful thing ever. And it like moves us. It moves us so much. And these girls don't even see that in themselves.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So when we say that, we're trying to completely, like, it's dead honest.
Yeah.
We wish you could see what we see in you.
Yeah.
Because we see so much beauty in our fan base and what they're doing. And I wish that all of them could see it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It's awesome. Well, if you guys,
I was gonna say I have a question to ask. I'm just kind of like throwing this out there. Like, first, we're talking a lot about what do we do to help people and stuff when they come to us, but what do I do, say, like, or someone who doesn't struggle as much with their mental health? What does that person do when someone who is struggling with mental health, like, how can they be there for them? Maybe if they don't even understand as much, but what are ways for people who don't struggle as much to be there for their friends, their family, their fans who struggle?
Great question.
I'm going to kick that to the guys. I mean, when you were struggling, I know some of you have, what did people do that were helpful?
I think like the most helpful thing that I've experienced from like any one of these guys at some point, all of them have helped me, but even just family also. But I think just letting that person know that they have been through that as well, or someone else has been through the same thing, that's kind of comforting to know that like you're not alone. It's not like a new thing. Just to validate that like you're not too sensitive because you're stressed out or like weak, it's not those things. It's just like it's valid to have problems with that, and to hear that from other people.
Yeah, that reassurance.
It's really comforting. Yeah, the reassurance.
And you don't always want to act like you have the answers, like Boom was saying. If you really don't have that, if you're not a person that holds anxiety or have a lot of struggles, and somebody comes up to you and be like, "Hey man, I'm having all these struggles and all this anxiety. Can you help me?" You don't want to act like you know all the answers, first of all, because that just puts you in a position of pride and oh, I'm better than this person because I don't have any struggles or anxieties like they do. That's the opposite of what you want to do. You kind of want to come down and try to put yourself in their shoes
where they're at,
as
right?
much as possible. Ask questions, maybe come up with remedies for that, and reassure them that, hey, you can say that, like, hey, I don't go through a lot of that, but I'm sorry for you, and I want to listen, and I want to tell you what I can tell you. But yeah, I definitely don't act like you have all the answers, because that can throw somebody off.
Yeah, and also like having that pressure to feel like you have to really help them or fix their problems right then, you need to let that go, because like if you're trying to do something really big for them and just like fix all their issues right then and there, it's not gonna, like you got to meet them halfway. I guess that's what I want to say. You can let go of that, I feel like.
Yeah, I mean, in the end, all these poor mental health cycles like anxiety and depression is just like feeling bad for something, and then feeling bad that you feel bad, and then feeling bad that you felt bad about feeling bad, and it's just like this awful cycle. So like you said, the first part is just validating, saying, hey, feeling bad is okay, and it stops there, and then that stops the cycle, and then you can move on from there. So it's like, as long as you're just like, hey, feeling that way is totally normal and totally okay, and then not like that's not all of the answers they need, but like that's just a thing to tell them, like, I don't have the answers, but feeling that way is okay, and you'll get through it.
I think just
bad day, not a bad life.
Bad day, not a bad life. Yes, sir. Yeah.
Sam, you were gonna say something?
Oh, well, I think like for me, all these guys have done one thing for me, and that's that they're there. You know what I mean? Like I can think about one time that each of these four guys in the last, 100 days has been there for me, and not been there with all the answers, but just been there.
Yeah.
I think that for me, someone like me, who I'm just constantly running the numbers, I'm always like, my mind is on hyperdrive, and it's always thinking of every possibility. And that works really well, but it also works really poorly too, because it goes through all the bad scenarios as well. When I'm doing that, when I have to do that, and I'm just doing that, the fact that someone like, Devin or John or Dawson or Bloom can just be there with me while I do that is, and they have great things to say, and they can help me out through it. But even if they didn't, the fact that they were just there it was something. It's like a tether. It's a way. It's another person who can hold me in, you know what I mean? And that's just awesome. I mean, that's one thing you can definitely do, is that it's not really about having all the answers. And they don't really want you to have all the answers.
No.
They want you to just be there.
They want you to be heard.
We're all just searching for connection.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
So it's not that we need an answer to something. We just want someone to listen to us.
Yeah, that bearing witness and not running away is so critical, because what people are most afraid of is I'm going to be ugly to somebody. My weakness, or what I perceive as my weakness or my blemish, or the fact that I can't be strong, is going to turn somebody off, somebody I don't want to turn off. So to just be able to bear witness and to not break the connection is huge. That's almost enough.
Yeah.
And then if you got more, you can just ask if they have, if there's more they want to share. Do they have people to talk to? If they don't, you can offer to help them find somebody who might be able to listen. You can look for a therapist, or you can go check out resources with them. But I totally agree. It really is just saying, it's okay. You're still beautiful. I still see the sweetness. I still see all that love, all the stuff I love about you. It's okay.
Yeah.
Wow. That's amazing. It's all about that human
questions,
just being there. What was that?
Is there any questions from
yeah, we got audience questions.
Yay.
Alrighty, so I've received a few from the YouTube chat. We're gonna start out with Lorna Watts, and she wants to know, how do you try to explain depression to someone who does not believe in mental health problems?
Wow, what a question.
Wow.
This one's crazy.
Digging in.
I know a few. That's tough.
I really want to hear Janice's answer.
Yeah, I want to hear
I don't have an answer at all. Yeah.
Yeah, I want to hear your guys' answer. This is a tough one.
You have a DR in front of your name, and that's why you get to know.
Yeah. I mean, okay, first of all, my advice would be, don't go into the conversation expecting to change somebody's mind, or to necessarily have them come away understanding, because it's not so much about understanding. It may be about accepting. It sounds like there's more resistance there than there is incapacity to understand. So if it really is just an understanding, then there's lots of resources. I'd go to the Jed Foundation website and look up depression and look at the way to explain it, and you can help explain it if that's what it is. If you're explaining it and they're just like, nah, I don't believe you, then that's different. That's resistance. And that could be lots of reasons for that. Usually it's, an aversion to feeling vulnerable, and they don't want to touch it. They don't even want to touch the idea of it, because even touching the idea of it can kind of make you feel vulnerable. And that's just going to be a tougher sell, and you can't necessarily change somebody that way.
I was going to say, people who feel like I've experienced that a little, not to a degree where I was trying to put someone down or anything like that, but it's feeling that vulnerable. If you don't feel that way yourself, a lot of times I feel like you're like kind of scared, like, oh, I don't want to know that I can feel like that, so I'm just going to shut it out, right? That's how a lot of people think. It's like they can't stand the fact that they could feel like that, so they just turn them away and don't even talk.
Mm-hmm.
I understand that feeling.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely, absolutely. If they're just not believing in it, it's a completely different story then.
Yeah, and that was really, thanks for saying that, because that is just so true. And then the other thing is, if this is a person they're trying to get support from, I would say just stop trying to get support from somebody who just can't go there yet.
Mm-hmm.
And look for the people who can go there, who can understand.
Yeah. Wow, that was a good question.
Seriously.
Yeah, they're pulling all the stops. Amy McEwen wants to know, how do you actually talk to people? And this kind of goes with the previous question. How do you actually talk to people about your mental health issues rather than keeping it bottled up inside? How do you begin that tough conversation?
As somebody who's challenged, who's struggling, or as somebody who thinks someone else
dealing with mental health and wants to get help but doesn't quite know how to begin the conversation?
Oh, that is really, you know what? It's like this, it seems like this insurmountable requirement of courage but it's just for this little hump. You just have to get over that first courageous hump of starting the conversation, and then that kind of can flow.
Yeah.
Well, I would say that, Amy, you've already done it.
Yeah,
Because
just
you
now.
asked
Right.
Yeah.
you asked that
Right.
question that was the first jump. Now just find someone that you really trust and that you would love to talk to, and just start talking about it, or ask them that question.
Yeah.
And then maybe you'll spur a conversation about it.
Or ask them how they are. I mean, this, first of all, there's not one answer because it's unbelievable. But I think what you're asking basically is, how do you be vulnerable in faith that it will be accepted? And you will never know that.
That's
but
right.
what you can do is give that. You can give someone else a chance to do that. And then if there's someone who will match that, they will or won't. So you put your toe in. I mean, you test the water. You won't necessarily, because really what you're asking, the worst case scenario, you blurt out all of your worst, your problems, and then they're like, oh my gosh. And so you don't do that. Unless you know that this is someone, if I went to any one of these guys and I was like, guys, help me, I'm struggling so bad, I know that they would be able to, put down what they're doing and be able to help me. But I know that because we've gone through so much and because we've done it before. So if you don't know yet, you have to test it out, and you can do that by giving them a chance to do it first.
Or just even starting with a small piece of it, right? If you want to just put yourself out there and not ask them right away, you could say, this is a little awkward for me to talk about, but I want to bring something up that's been happening for me. But don't do the big deep chunk. Do a slightly on the edge chunk. So yeah, you can kind of test the waters, like Sam's saying. I really like that idea. I was also going to mention that Seize the Awkward is a great campaign that has lots of conversation starters. You can go to the website and they have conversation starters for every size. If you want to,
That's very helpful.
Yeah,
that is so.
It's on Jed, right? It's on Jed Foundation.
Yeah, you can link to it from Jed. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna go there.
That's awesome. Conversation starters.
Yeah. There's lots of conversations. There's even There's even scenarios. So.
Well, that's really cool.
That's a great resource.
I
Elsie asks, how do you control overthinking and not analyze everything?
Let me
Go ahead, Dawson.
You really can't. I mean, as far as trying to just silence it completely, that doesn't work if you are a person who chronically does that, which is me. You can, something that I do, and I don't want to, things work differently for everybody, but is I let the thoughts come, I find that the biggest thing that is an issue for me is I judge sometimes in the past, still do some, I judge the thoughts I have, or the stresses I have. Why am I stressed? It's fine. In the back of my head, I'm thinking it's not that serious, but I still think about it a lot. So I would say let it come to you. Don't hate yourself for being that way. And in a lot of ways, it's a superpower because you're not going to go without thinking something through. You know what I mean? You're going to think things through. It can be a good thing. I think just channeling it and not letting it become a bad thing, or letting yourself think of it as a terrible thing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And also meditation.
Calm the brain.
Yeah, it's actually it's truly effective. And there's ones out there on YouTube that you can get for free for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, just to set yourself aside and throw away those thoughts for a little bit if you need to focus on something or something else, and that's swaying you another way. But and if you're a person that when you hear meditation, you're oh, that's awkward, I don't want to do that with myself, I don't want to be I think that the perspective of meditation is a little off for some people, which it was for me. I low-key judged it for a while, and then I was just you know what, there was this one night I just had way too much in my head and it was killing me, and I'm just I'll try anything at this point, so
similar for me.
So I tried meditation, and then after it I was whoa, that's really, really cool. You can truly find a zen and a peacefulness and a calmness within your own soul and your own mind, and it shows you that you really do have control over your own mind, doing these practices that meditation teaches you. So
you can train yourself.
Yeah, you really can. It's training, it's practice.
And it's good to note too about the meditation stuff. You can get guided meditations online. That if you have a monkey mind, if you just have a mind that needs to listen to something, there's some people with just very, very soothing voices, and it'll keep your mind busy as you're busy kind of breathing and relaxing.
There's different types of overthinking, but if you're overanalyzing, specifically overanalyzing, something you can do is search for what is true, especially if you, because as an overanalyzer, you go and you think about every possibility of what is true about what you're thinking. It's like, is what I'm thinking even true? But you can't just circle. You have to search for what is true, and you have to put your thoughts up against what is actually true. You know what you look like because you see the mirror. So even if you, in your mind, were like thinking like, oh, I have like a green nose and horns, you would look in the mirror and say, oh, that's not true. I don't have those things. But you have to do the same thing with knowledge, where you have to actually search for the truth. And some people can't do that. The kinds of people who will never believe that depression exists are the kinds of people who will never search for the real truth. You have to open up your heart to what actually is true. Mm-hmm. And then don't, like Dawson said, overthinking is not a bad thing. It is a powerful thing that can be dangerous if you don't channel it in the right way. And I think that, especially overanalyzing, if you actually put it up against searching for something that is going to be true, or it'll make it look true or not true, and you can actually like see if that's true. Like for example, if I'm overthinking what John thinks about me, then I'm like all the time, I'm like, man, does he like me? Am I annoying him? There's going to be a time where I have to ask him, or I have to try to actually figure out what he actually thinks, not just what I'm thinking he thinks, what he actually thinks.
Yeah, we have plenty of times where he'll come up to you like, hey man, I just it feels off.
Yeah.
Am I like getting in your space? And I'll be like, what?
Not at all.
Not at all. Like,
and that's really scary. But you have to be able to put it up against truth. And I think that a lot of us do that as well. Yeah.
Guys, those are some great tools. We have a question from Bree Lynn. She asks, how do you deal with people who constantly put you down, and how do you stay confident through all that negativity?
If you can. If you can.
Bree Lynn.
Yeah.
So I know the situation a little bit. I've talked to her. I tried to help her a few times. It's not so easy to be able to cut it out in this situation. I would say like, just know that they're the toxic people. They're the people that have an issue if they're putting you down because you are like being vulnerable with them or trying to work on your issues by saying, listen, I have an issue with how you treat me, and I could be better too. Like conversations like that. If they're not willing to have that, that's not on you. That's not cool. So that's hard.
It's the same thing with like, haters.
Yeah.
And it took me a long time, ever since I was 14. So, I've had haters since all the way back then. It took me a long time to truly understand it. But it's similar to the bully situation. If someone's a bully, usually they're going through something, like on their own. Yeah. And so for me, I don't even know what steps I really took to get here. So maybe Janice could explain more on that. But now, if there's someone who's being truly mean to me and just constantly putting me down about something, I feel bad for them because I know they're going through something so much harder than what I'm dealing with them putting me down, because there's something that they're dealing with that caused them to lash out.
Yeah.
And
which doesn't help you.
That helps me.
It's a perspective. Yes. Yeah. Absolutely.
To see them like that, it helps me to get out of the mindset of they're hurting me, to be like, oh, they're going through something. And
so what that does is it presents you with the idea that might not be true what they're saying. Mm-hmm. And then what you do is you find people around you who will say not what they're saying. Because the reason why John and we can do that is because we can say they're hurting, and that presents you with the idea like they're just hurting. They're not actually trying to say those things. That stuff isn't true. And then you have to find, a wife, best friends, whatever, like that will tell you what is true. And Janice, what do you have to say about all that?
I think you guys have done a fabulous job of explaining. It's exactly that. I mean, the highest practice here is the compassion. If you can see that people who suffer often have no choice in a way but to project the suffering. If they don't have any other way to deal with it, if they if they just don't have the tools, then they will often project it out into the world, and then they see it in the form of other people. So it's a vast distortion. They're not seeing correctly. They're seeing as a projection of what they feel about themselves. So if a lot of negativity is usually massive distortion and massive projection. So if you can just say, wow, it's really sad. It's sad that that person is so distorted. But if there's some part of it, let me back up. Sad that that person's so distorted, can you distance a little bit? Can you just detach from the emotion of it? If there's some part of you that's getting hooked by it, if there's some part of you that secretly thinks that maybe they're saying that something that could be true about you, then you do what Sam did if you can muster the courage. But go to someone you trust and say, hey, somebody said this thing, it's sticking with me because I think maybe it kind of may be true. What is that something you see? You get information from somebody you trust, because we're all our friends are mirrors for us too. They can see us in ways pretty clearly. And if you're hearing the same thing from multiple people, then it's a really good idea to do some self-inquiry and say, maybe there's something I need to be looking at.
Also, circling back to what you just said about distance and to those people who put you down, and then circling back to what if it's somebody that you can't, what if it's somebody close to you, your family member, or maybe a friend or whatever it is, and you don't want to just cut them out of your life, right? I think a great thing that I've learned is boundaries with different people. Just setting boundaries within yourself of like, okay, people that cross this line, I have to keep them here, and I have to have certain expectations of them. I can't expect them to be that kind of person that I would want close to my life, because they're just not to me. They prove time after time that they keep putting me down, or whatever the issue is, right? You have to set certain boundaries with people. You don't always just have to cut them completely out of your life. Just setting boundaries, I think, is very important.
And a lot of people, I've noticed, they keep these friends that are toxic to them and negative to them, just to make sure that they have a friends list. I feel like for some people, they feel as it's important to have more friends than just one good one. The variety, different people to be around because it's fun and less boring. And I personally believe that I think one true friend is better than 10 fake ones. So if it's that you're worried about, when it comes to saying no to these people, or cutting them out of your life, then you just have to look at the situation and prioritize yourself. And that's not a selfish thing to do in a relationship. If it's affecting you, prioritize yourself and let it go, and put your time and energy towards more people that are there to support you and there to actually be your friend, and not judge you or try to sway you in any other negative ways. Because at the end of the day, you are who you surround yourself with. Thankfully, I'm surrounded by this amazing group of guys, and it's really cool to be able to sit back and listen to all of our answers and on these things and stuff, and know that I'm surrounded by well-rounded men. And even Alyssa is an amazing woman, and I'm happy with the circle that I've created for myself. Now go find somebody that's going to help you dig deep in your own soul and your own mind and your own heart, and collaborate a little bit with that in conversation. That's just going to better yourself. Now,
family does not have to be blood. You know what I mean?
And it could be someone that's not real. It could be not real, but it could be someone online. I mean, it could be. I'm not circling around, but it could be someone. And that is maybe sometimes why we do that, because it's way easier to find someone out of the 7 billion of us that we agree with, that we can't actually touch. And so you just don't want to, you don't want to have to rely just on that. And so honestly, it can be cool if you try to find someone in a group that's near your house, and also you have to try out different things. Maybe you go to the new YMCA, or you go to the library. Like I don't know. It's finding a group, finding someone in your life. I don't know.
As important as it is to have people, your age, that I think that's mega important. Yep, mega important. But when it came to my mental health and understanding who I am, one of the biggest changes I ever made was I decided to go out to, my youth group pastors or friends' parents who I really enjoyed being with, people whose lives looked the way that I want my life to look. And I knew I could trust them because I had a relationship with them. I would go up to them and ask them questions and try to learn from their wisdom. Older people who are older than me, people who I know are wiser than me, have gone through more than me. It helped me learn so much about myself to have a group of people that were older and wiser than me that I was willing to learn from. So if you can, I think it's so important to find those mentors in your life like Janice.
Yeah.
Or even your mom and dad, or grandma, a teacher,
yeah.
a youth pastor, anything like that.
Librarian.
A librarian. Dude, they come in so many forms. People who are older have gone through more life than you. And it's just a lot of times they can share some really important wisdom, and it'll help you figure out who you are. And the more you figure out who you are, the more you can find friends that really are the right ones.
Yeah. And then you can know what people say about you is not true or not true, because then you'll know who you actually are.
Yep.
Yeah.
It all ties in with the fact checking that you brought up about yourself and overthinking, and a negative person, get them out of there with a great mentor. That was great. You tied that all together. We have a question from Kelly Bean, who says, how do you not let your insecurities get in the way of being unapologetically you? And that's a great way by having those people. It's a great way to get rid of some of those insecurities. But if you could double down on that and really get into that.
Okay, so our insecurities are us saying that something about us is bad. And, you know, if you're really insecure about the way that your farts smell, maybe you'll have to eat some more vegetables. I don't know. But if you're insecure about something, about who you are, that's a different story, because that's not wrong with you. That's not something that's wrong with you. You know what I mean? Or how you look, or what your way that your laugh is, or that's not wrong with you. And so how you do it is you have to fight that. You have to say that's not true. I mean, Janice, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm trying to think about the best way, because, you know, there's all of these things that we experience have gifts for us. So I wouldn't encourage anybody to invite it in and ask it what it's trying to tell you. But don't believe everything it says. You know, I feel like a good part of life is just about being courageous enough to ask the hard questions of yourself and other people, maybe, you know, in the way that we were talking about asking for feedback. But there's no part of you, even if it feels like it's beating up on you, that doesn't have something to give you. So ask it what its gift is, but don't believe it when it tells you about how shitty you are, because that's not its gift. Its gift may be pointing you to digging deeper, like where, you know, right. So it may, if it's pushing you to go deeper, to find the part of you that's just the precious part that you totally already know is there, you just need to make space for it, then in a way it can be your friend. I don't know if that makes a lot of sense.
No, okay, so I'm sorry, I'll keep going.
No, you go, I'm good.
Okay, so the insecurity itself isn't placing a value on you, is what you're saying. Like, it's just showing you something.
Right.
But so the insecurity is just like, if you're, it's like when you get a message or notification, or your car says the engine light's on, it's just presenting to you an opportunity.
Right.
And then we, as humans, place value on that's wrong, or that's good, or that's bad, or I'm less of a person because of this.
Right, and then we shove it away, and then we're all wrapped up in our energy of trying to get it stay away. I would try not to do that. That's just a waste of energy. It's better to say, what is it?
Okay. Yeah, and that will completely stop the other side of that, which some people don't think about, is she said being unapologetically you.
Right.
If you start just blocking out the haters so much that you end up blocking out true friends as well.
Wow. Yeah.
You have to watch out for that, because you take everything with a grain of salt. Okay. If you look at it and you realize that there is no wisdom to get from this, then just block it out. Do your thing like you were doing. But if you aren't listening to anything, that's also unhealthy.
I was going to say
there is wisdom in this. I can learn from this, and then you can take that piece of it. Take everything with a grain of salt.
Boom. What were you saying?
No, I was just going to agree with you, John. I was like, the first thing that came to my mind when you said unapologetically you, I was like, ooh, like maybe you should be careful with unapologetically and how you use it. And I don't know the way this person's using unapologetically, but you don't want to use it so much to the fact where you just don't want to hear anything. I'm going to be me, and you're not working on your faults either, because we all have flaws. We all have things that we need to work on as well. So I know, you know, you want to be confident enough and shut out the insecurities enough to be yourself, of course, but also have the open-mindedness to change yourself as well. It's a balance. It's definitely a balance.
Mhm.
Yeah, it took me many, many years to understand that I'm never going to stop growing.
Wow.
Like I will until I'm 90 years old. I will
That is true.
keep getting better.
Wow.
Like I'm not perfect. I never will be perfect.
That's exciting,
I will
though.
for the rest of my life.
Mhm.
Isn't it?
It's exciting
Right?
if you think about it. You're never gonna be stagnant. There's always something you can be better at.
Yep.
Mhm.
So if you just listen to the insecurity, let it sit there, and then try to see what it is saying to you, and then what?
Yeah. So how is it directing you to the love that you have for yourself? Because if you
Oh.
have, if there's something underneath the insecurity that's bigger than that, what's the part of you that can allow the insecurity, but also allow all of the parts of you that aren't that at all? What are the parts of you that aren't that? And so I think self-compassion is probably one of the deepest practices that you can do. If you couple the meditation we were talking about earlier with just self-compassion, I'm doing the best I can. I love myself. I really want to be here for myself. I want to do the right thing. And you just keep wanting that and keep allowing things to come up from that. It's pretty fascinating what happens.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing. We have one last question, or we have two last questions. Second to last is from Dana, and I do not know how to pronounce his last name, so I'm so sorry. Dana Al-Shehi. That's my best attempt. What should you do if you're really worried about your friend? And I'm thinking this question means really worried about your friend's mental health.
I would say, sorry, is someone else gonna speak?
I mean, this kind of brings back to what Sam was implying about how would you want to go about maybe sharing your own, maybe, go out for lunch or something, or just have a calm setting and a one-on-one with this person. You don't want to hit them with it right away. Be like, hey, I think there's something wrong with you. Let's talk about it. You kind of want to set them at that level a little bit. So maybe you start talking about some things that you're going through, or you just ask how the person is, and you start to go into detail a little more through conversation. And if you need help, there's the tool that Janice was talking about earlier. But it's all conversational based, and it's nothing to be afraid of if you really want to reach out to help someone. But you have to know that you cannot change somebody. You cannot do that. And you shouldn't do that. Everybody has their own past, their own hardships and challenges that they need to face, and they need to learn themselves to grow. But obviously you can be a helping hand in that, and show them these other paths or opportunities that they may can take to help themselves. But it's all conversational,
Yeah, I mean, Dana, it depends on. I recently had a friend who. It depends on how worried you are. I mean, if you're worried they're not gonna make it through the night, you can't plan the dinner. You know what I mean? You have to, and it depends on what their life looks like. If they have parents and you're close with those parents, you can tell those parents if that's something that you think is appropriate to do. I mean, you can do the most appropriate, most safe thing, because, again, like if you have a friend who you don't think is gonna make it through the night, then it's an emergency, and so you have to do what you can do. And so, yeah, it depends on the friend. If there's someone you can call and talk to them, or if you have done that and you're still kind of worried, you tell their parents, you know what I mean? Or you tell someone their significant other. You have to get it known in the most appropriate way. And because if you really care about someone, I mean, if it's someone who you're getting worried about, you can see they're starting to change a little bit, you can take different routes. But if it's an emergency, you have to figure out. Because for me, like that's something that's like. You have to know how to do that the right way the first time. Otherwise, it's too late. I mean, Janice, what would you say about that?
Well, you guys have all done. That's exactly. I mean, it really depends on how worried you are. You can, for some conversation starters, I'd point you back to Susie Awkward and the Jed Foundation resource, because there are a bunch of kinds of what do you do ifs and how do you approach it if sort of stuff. But I think it's also mindful. I think I can't remember which one of you said it, but being able to pick a time and a place and to have it be, sort of relaxed and sort of private. I wouldn't do it out in public where people can overhear and your friend's going to be uncomfortable, but feels kind of casual and easing in slowly, but being honest. Like just saying, hey, I've noticed that you're doing these things, or you used to really love doing this stuff with us and you don't do it anymore. You seem really down, and I'm worried about you. I'm worried that you're feeling alone or that you're feeling depressed, and do you feel like you can share? I think it's not the words that come out as much as it's how present can you be at the time when you're doing it? How authentic does your friend feel the caring is? How, you know, and it's really okay to say, this is really awkward in a way for me to bring up, but it's worth it because I care about you enough. And I'm worried enough that I want to say this thing. You said the other day that life wasn't worth living. Are you considering ending your life? Being straight, being honest, and being authentic is really the best practice here.
And I was going to interject something. I would also like to know what you think about this, Janice. I don't know if this is the right way to approach things, but if I've ever had someone that I know is struggling, but they just won't talk to me, oftentimes the way I've approached it is I will start a conversation with them and be vulnerable about myself, which shows them that being with me is a safe space because I trust them. Yeah. No one's going to trust you if they don't know that you trust them. Wow. So if I can show them that, like, I trust them enough to be vulnerable about myself, then maybe they'll open up about themselves to me as well.
Yeah, no, that is powerful. If you can do that, that's great. Because part of what you're doing is you're communicating, you're not going to scare me away. And I am strong enough to hear whatever it is you have to say. And I want to understand. And those three communications are really potent they're potent invitations for people to speak. They will often respond. And if your friend's just not ready and they're avoiding it, I would not push it right then unless you're seriously concerned about them potentially ending their life or something like that soon. In which case there are things you should probably do, but keep the door open and keep an eye on it and do it again. Bring it up again at another time.
Wow, that's amazing. We're nearing the end of our time. And so really quickly, if you want to just go down the line, Jake B wants to know what's a quote that you guys live by that's really helped with your mental health. If you just want to interject this really quickly.
Really quickly, I said it earlier really quickly. It was, I learned in high school, some company came and said it's not a bad day, or it's not a bad life, it's just a bad day. I love that. It kind of takes everything in perspective and like really helps you kind of just focus one issue at a time.
For me, it's listing out the things that I can and I can't control. And I shift my energy and my priority over to the things that I can control. And I kind of just let the ones that I can't dwindle. That's up to life and other things to deal with. That's from me being an overthinker and a very passionate person. I just kind of have to be like, wait. Why am I so caught up in this? I shouldn't even be involved in this. This isn't my place. Yeah. So I just kind of, you know, like I said, meditation and kind of split the two in my brain and then embracing as well, doing a lot of embracing of how I feel and how I can change that.
That's great.
Nice.
For me, it's something my dad has always said for me growing up, which is just take everything with a grain of salt, which is a very wide expression, basically just saying, find the wisdom in what you can, and if there's no wisdom, let it be.
Dawson, what do you think?
I'm trying to think of one, to be honest.
Yeah, one quote. I don't know.
I'd love to interject something someone once said to me. They said, life is like the rain falling down, and the goal is to be a duck. You know how they preen and the water just rolls right off their back? They don't absorb the water. They just let it roll off. They know it's there, but they don't absorb it.
Wait, nice. We're saying quotes?
Yeah.
I thought
that's hard though.
Hey, yours was helpful too.
I don't know quotes.
I thought we were talking about copes, like to
cope. No, Jake wanted to know some quotes that he could keep for himself.
What is it, a cope? What is that?
Here's something I live by is whether you think you can or can't, you're right. It's all mindset.
Yeah.
That's it.
Beautiful.
Just let it go. That'll be mine. You know, just it is what it is.
Yeah.
You can't fix it.
This is a tough one. I think probably the one I have to use the most often in my life, at least, and with all the people in my life, is this too shall pass. I mean, life goes fast, and nothing stays. Nothing, even if it feels like it's memorialized forevermore, it just isn't. That's just not the case. And that, and the idea that life is just messy. I mean, there's no not messy here. And my job, my goal as a person and as a parent and as just a human on the planet is just to help myself and others be the best kind of messy I can be, the best kind of, the most messy with the most integrity.
And to go off of this too shall pass, just in case there's someone in the chat that needs to hear this, I've never met someone who was about to commit suicide and didn't, that regretted not committing suicide.
Yeah.
That's right.
I've never met, they always say it gets better. Everyone who almost did, but didn't for some reason, has always said that it gets better.
That's awesome.
Oh, John, like this is that, and that leads to the most important one for me, which is life really is precious. I know people say that, but I got to tell you, at my age, where I'm, where I am now, it's like it really is. It goes by, and it's kind of fleeting. So there is just this preciousness in every moment that I know is hard to touch, especially when you're young. But it is it's a true thing.
It is.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for being here, Janice, and representing the Jed Foundation. And on the outside is very excited to couple up with you guys and try to raise some funds. So Devin, if you want to kind of dive in and tell everyone how you guys are planning on doing that.
100%. So we're actually really excited to announce, that we've partnered with the Jed Foundation and Mantra Band on creating How Beautiful bracelets. I actually have one on right now. You can check it out here. There's just little bands that you can put on that are engraved with How Beautiful, which is our newest song. And it's all about, I want these to represent what we talked about earlier in your true beauty and how your insecurities are differences. It makes you unique. Yes, self-love. You are truly beautiful. And so are other people. So maybe you could even pass this along to someone who you think would need it. So these are going to be available on sale Monday at 11 a.m. PST. And we're also going to be giving some away for free. But $5 from each sale of these will go towards assisting 1 in 5 U.S. adults experiencing mental illness every year via the Jed Foundation, and also providing resources to those who struggle with mental illnesses. So if you like them, think they're cute, buy them. Or if you want to help us make an impact, do that as well.
Nice little reminder.
And Devin, where can people go buy those on Monday? Where will they be available?
These are going to be, we're going to post a link. I don't know. I'm not completely sure of exactly where. I'm pretty sure on the Mantra Band website or on our own website, but definitely stay tuned for that because I personally, I'm not sure.
Okay. So everyone who's watching, be on the lookout for those beautiful bracelets with that amazing reminder that you're all beautiful. Thank you so much, Dr. Janice Whitlock, for being here. Thank you, OTO on the outside, for being here and just opening the conversation on mental health and what's going on the inside. This has been absolutely incredible. If there's anything else you guys want to say, I think this is a great place to leave it off.
Yeah, they're going to be available on the Mantra Band website. I just got
Awesome. I just want to say quickly, I really want to say thank you to OTO and to you, Alyssa, and to everybody out there watching for tuning in and for caring and for being such great advocates and for partnering with the Jed Foundation to do such important work. Really, really appreciate it.
Of course. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you for being here. Seriously.
Thank you so much.
Nirvana really inspired to do things. We love to be a good role model for you guys and influence you in the best way possible.